Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtapada Shuddha Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajapacharya Ashtapada Shuddha Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakopana Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Nugovardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaura Pranandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Liberation, Chapter 6, The Downfall of Saubhari Muni. Starting with text 27. Yes. Okay, please repeat after me. Raja Tad Yagya sadanam pravishto nishi tarshitaha tishtva shayanan viprams tan papau mantrajalam swayam Raja Tadyaga Saranam Pravishto Nishitarshitaha Tishtva Shayanan Viprangstan Pau Mantra Jalam Swayam Raja Tadyagya Saranam Pravishto Nishitarshitaha Tishtva Shyanan Viprangstan Pau Mantra Jalam Swayam Raja Tadyagya Saranam Pravishto Nishitarshitaha Tishtva Shyanan Viprangstan Pau Mantra Jalam Swayam Chant. Tishtva Shayanam Viprangstan Papau Mantra Jalam Swayam. Right, any online reciters?
Raja Tadyagya Saranam Pravishto Nishitarshitaha Drishtva Shayanan Vipramstan Papau Mantra Jalam Svayam.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay, please repeat after me. Raja Tadyagya Saranam. All right, let's go back. The king Yuvanashva. Okay, next word. The arena of sacrifice. Pravishtaha, entered. Nishi, at night. Tarshitaha, being thirsty. Dishwa, seen. Shayanan, lying down. Vipran, all the Brahmins. Tan, all of them. Papau, drank. Mantra Jalam, water sanctified by mantras. Swayam, personally. Translation. Being thirsty one night, the king entered the arena of sacrifice, and when he saw the Brahmins lying down, he personally drank the sanctified water meant to be drunk by his wife. Purport. Yajnas performed by Brahmins according to Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are so potent that the sanctifying of water by Vedic mantras can bring about their desired result. In this instance, the Brahmins sanctified the water so that the king's wife might drink it in the yajna. But by providence, the king himself went there at night and, being thirsty, drank the water. So next text. When the Brahmins got up from bed and saw the water pot empty, they inquired who had done this work of drinking the water meant for begetting a child. When the Brahmins came to understand that the king, inspired by the Supreme Controller, had drunk the water, they all exclaimed, "Alas, the power of providence is real power. No one can counteract the power of the Supreme." In this way, they offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. Thereafter, in due course of time, a son with all the good symptoms of a powerful king came forth from the lower right side of King Yuvanashva's abdomen. The baby cried so much for breast milk that all the Brahmins were very unhappy. "Who will take care of this baby?" they said. Then Indra, who was worshipped in that yoga, came and solaced the baby. "Do not cry," Indra said. Then Indra put his index finger in the baby's mouth and said, "You may drink me." Because Yuvanashva, the father of the baby, was blessed by the Brahmins, he did not fall a victim to death. After this incident, he performed severe austerities and achieved perfection in that very spot. Mandata, the son of Yuvanashva, was the cause of fear for Ravana. So it means he's a very powerful personality if Ravana was fearful of him. And other thieves and rogues who caused anxiety. O King Parikshit, because they feared him, the son of Yuvanashva was known as Traisadasyu. This name was given by King Indra, which that name means one who threatens thieves and rogues. By the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the son of Yuvanashva was so powerful that when he became emperor, he ruled the entire world, consisting of 7 islands, without any second ruler. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is non-different from the auspicious aspects of sacrifices, such as the ingredients of the sacrifice, the chanting of Vedic hymns, the regulative principles, the performer, the priest, the results of the sacrifice, the arena of sacrifice, and the time of sacrifice. Knowing the principles of self-realization, Mandata worshipped that transcendentally situated Supreme Soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, who comprises all the demigods. He also gave immense charity to the Brahmins, and thus he performed yoga to worship the Lord. All places from where the sun rises on the horizon, shining brilliantly, to where the sun sets, are known as the possession of the celebrated Mandata, the son of Yuvanashva. Mandata begot 3 sons in the womb of Bindumati, the daughter of Shashabindu. These sons were Purukutsa, Ambarish, and Muchukunda, a great mystic yogi. These 3 brothers had 50 sisters, who all accepted the great sage Saubhari as their husband. So I will read up until 46. So this is text 39 and 40. Saubhari Rishi was engaged in austerity, deep in the water of the river Yamuna, when he saw a pair of fish engaged in sexual affairs. Thus he perceived the pleasure of sex life, and, induced by this desire, he went to King Mandata and begged for one of the king's daughters. In response to this request, the king said, "O Brahman, any of my daughters may accept any husband according to her personal selection." Purport. This is the beginning of the story of Saubhari Rishi. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Mandata was the king of Mathura, and Saubhari Rishi was engaged in austerity while submerged deep within the river Yamuna. When the Rishi felt sexual desire, he emerged from the water and went to King Mandata to ask that one of the king's daughters become his wife. Om Jnanitivarandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshulamalidamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langate Girim YukapatamahamVande Shri Gurundinitaradam Vanshakapadribhishcha Kripasindabevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srimati Radharani does not cook Krishna the same thing twice. This is what we hear, which is quite amazing. Because, I mean, it's very amazing. So similarly, sometimes when I look at Leela Shakti's dressing of Radha Giridhari, Leela Shakti dresses Radha Giridhari every Monday, every Thursday, and every Sunday, every week. She lives about 30 minutes away, and Bhaktivatsal, her husband, also comes and dresses the deities those days as well. Very wonderful Krishna conscious couple. But if you pay attention closely to how Radha Giridhari is dressed on Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, they're always dressed differently. It's never the same. It's quite amazing, actually, her creative ability to dress Radha Giridhari. Specifically, I mean, because the dresses tend to be similar looking, at least in how they hang and so on. But specifically, the jewelry and turbans, Krishna's turban. So you could, if you doubt me, you could now from this day forward, it's Thursday, you could look on Sunday, you could look on Monday, you could look next Thursday, and you'll see. Just test yourself, or test my words. So yeah, we want to appreciate Leela Shakti for her wonderful service. So to be a yogi means to control one's mind and senses. Saubhari Muni was a powerful yogi. He wasn't some pseudo-yogi. He wasn't some materialistic person pretending to be yogi. He was a real yogi. He was a powerful personality. I mean, can you imagine meditating underwater? I mean, people have a hard time meditating. What to speak of underwater? He had mystic power. And as Srila Prabhupada writes, and we could see this in relation to our lives, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction that without controlling one's mind and senses and Krishna consciousness, one cannot make any spiritual progress. One cannot make any spiritual advancement. So the first thing, the first business in a devotee's life is to control their mind and senses. And if one is able to follow the instructions of the previous acharyas, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, or disciplic succession, instructions given within disciplic succession, then one will be able to control their mind and senses. Simultaneously, one should live in the mode of goodness, and then everything regarding how to make further progress will gradually be revealed. So Srila Prabhupada writes. So first, a devotee is expected to become a Goswami. Go is the senses, and Swami means master. So a devotee is not a master of their town, or a master of their community, or a master of their dog, or a master of their family, or a master of the temple, or a master of the brahmacharya ashram, whatever. But a devotee is expected to be a master of their senses. controller of their senses. And then, after managing to control one's senses, then one could move on to becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. So everybody, that's our mission. So how is it that such a powerful yogi as Saubhari Muni fell down? Because this chapter is called The Downfall of Saubhari Muni. And he really fell. It's not that he really fell down. I mean, his material desires completely went out of control. And aside from them going out of control, he acted on them, marrying 50 wives. And does anyone remember? Now, of course, to marry is not a sin. But he's a yogi. And he was a controller of his mind and senses, and he was supposed to be beyond that, but he fell. Does anyone remember how many children he had with each wife? Huh? What do you say? Huh? Yeah, you got it right. Yeah. 100 sons with each wife. So how could such a powerful person controlling his mind and senses in the Yamuna River, meditating, powerful person, how can such a person fall down? By seeing some fish copulate, some fish. I mean, so he fell down due to Vaishnava aparad. He offended a great devotee, which we will hear later on in this chapter. We'll hear more about that in detail. What was his Vaishnava aparad? But because that Vaishnava aparad, material desires entered his heart, and he couldn't control his senses. So again, to get married is not a sin, but to get married, or for one's mind and senses to spin out of control and to get married or to do whatever, due to Vaishnava aparad, that's very unfortunate. So this was his situation. So we may be a big yogi or devotee or whatever, but if we commit Vaishnava aparad and if we do not rectify that, then we'll fall down. This is what we're learning from Saubhari Muni, this particular pastime, or this section of the Bhagavatam. So, we'll read the next verse. Saubhari Muni thought, I am now feeble because of old age. My hair has become gray. My skin is slack, and my head always trembles. He's not in very materially good shape. Besides, I am a yogi. Therefore, women do not like me. It's an interesting thing. So it's not like a modern concept of a male yogi, very healthy looking, bright, energetic. But yogi means severe austerity, and as Saubhari Muni is explaining himself, it wears the body down. And he was doing it for many years, and after all, he was in the Yamuna. Since the king has thus rejected me, I shall reform my body in such a way as to be desirable even to celestial women. What to speak of the daughters of worldly kings? So, this material desire entered his heart. He came out. He wasn't in good shape materially. So he said, "All right, let me reform my body, so it will be very attractive. It will be irresistible, even to celestial women." So the beauty of celestial women is actually inconceivable to us on the earthly plane. And they are definitely not interested in ordinary men. Celestial women. Definitely not interested. To them, the men are like frogs to them. Just like really not interested. So So he by his mystic power made himself so attractive that even celestial women would be attracted to him. So in this way, we could see he was scheming, trying to fulfill his material desires. So his material desires were raging in his heart, and he was desperate to fulfill them. Desperate to fulfill his personal desires. Okay, next. Thereafter, when Saubhari Muni became quite a young and beautiful person, the messenger of the palace took him inside the residential quarters of the princesses, which were extremely opulent. All 50 princesses then accepted him as their husband, although he was only one man. Thereafter, the princesses, being attracted by Saubhari Muni, gave up their sisterly relationship and quarreled among themselves, each of them contending, "This man is just suitable for me, and not for you." In this way, there ensued a great disagreement. So we see that whenever sense gratification is in the picture, there's envy. So, and this is a way to see how we're doing in that department, is that are we happy when others are successful in Krishna consciousness? Or is there some feelings of envy there? So clearly these wives, they're envious. It's because sense gratification. I want to be with this Saubhari Muni who's so beautiful. Not you. He's good for me, not you. So, and they said they gave up their sisterly relationship and quarreled among themselves. All right. So, because Saubhari Muni was expert in chanting mantras perfectly, his severe austerities resulted in an opulent home with garments, ornaments, properly dressed and decorated, maidservants and manservants, and varieties of parks with clear water lakes and gardens. In the gardens, fragrant with varieties of flowers, birds chirped and bees hummed, surrounded by professional singers. Saubhari Muni's home was amply provided with valuable beds, seats, ornaments, and arrangements for bathing, and there were varieties of sandalwood creams, flower garlands, and palatable dishes. Thus, surrounded by opulent paraphernalia, the Muni engaged in family affairs with his numerous wives. So in this way, he created a very heavenly situation by his mystic power, all for himself, not for Krishna. All for himself and for his extended self, his wives, all for sense gratification. Krishna was definitely out of the picture, and all of his austerities, all of his renunciation, all of his knowledge was out of the picture. All of it was for sense gratification. And therefore he fell into deep illusion. Okay, so the purport. Saubhari Rishi was a great yogi. Yogic perfection makes available 8 material opulence: anima, lagima, mahima, prapti, prakamya, vishitva, and kama vasayita. Speaking of mahima, she will be initiated. That's what it looks like on January 18th. Also, yeah, that's what it's looking like. Saubhari Muni exhibited super excellence in material enjoyment by dint of his yogic perfection. The word bharicha means expert in chanting mantras. As material opulence can be achieved by ordinary material means, it can also be achieved by subtle means through mantras. By chanting mantras, Saubhari Muni arranged for material opulence, but this was not perfection in life. It was not perfection of life. So he had 50 beautiful princesses, which eventually he had 100 sons with each princess. He had, huh? It's a brahmachari talking there. Hare Krishna. So he had all of this, the family, the heavenly opulence. He was really enjoying. So he thought. But actually what was happening, he was just putting ghee on the fire of his desire, and there was never going out, and he's never satisfied. And later he realizes that. So he had all this, but as Srila Prabhupada writes, it was not the perfection of life. And this is the disease of people who are forgetful of Krishna, that they think the perfection of life is so many things. And some people probably nowadays would think, this is perfection of life. Look at Saubhari. So people think that this is the perfection of life, that some people nowadays have heavenly opulence, 50 wives, princesses, not just ordinary wives, princesses. And I didn't have to work for it, all by mantra, because that's what Saubhari Muni did, all by mantra. You didn't have to work for it. So whether it's this standard, which of course for materialists is a high standard, or whatever gradations, people think that material progress will satisfy them, make them happy. Even in practicing Krishna consciousness, that if I carve out myself a comfortable situation in which I have a nice position in the Hare Krishna movement, society, with plenty of respect, or at least some respect and maybe some criticism, but it's all worth it, right? If I can have a nice family life in Krishna consciousness, or if I could be peaceful, or this or that, or whatever it may be, some type of achievement, external achievement, then that's the perfection. Those things may be there, or they may not be there, but the perfection in life is just to love Krishna. That's the perfection. And that's the whole idea behind everything we're doing, that we want to reach that perfection. Narantara Prabhu, he was in Atlanta, Georgia, and Srila Prabhupada was there. And then the temple room was packed. There's about 125 devotees, mostly brahmacharis and sannyasis, part of the famous Radha Damodar traveling bus party. They had 6 buses, big buses, vans following and so on, traveling and distributing books all over the country, as well as chanting Hare Krishna, Harinam, and so on. So Narantara asked Srila Prabhupada a question. He raised his hand and he said famously that, Srila Prabhupada, you can imagine Narantara asking, Srila Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? And then all the devotees were like, kind of listen to what Prabhupada was going to say. And they all really knew what Prabhupada was going to say. Like 100, it was on everybody's mind. He was going to say book distribution. He said, what pleases you the most? And then Srila Prabhupada looked out at everybody and said, what pleases me the most is if you love Krishna. If you could love Krishna. So, of course, book distribution, so many different services are there. These are ways to express our love for Krishna. But that love for Krishna should be there, and that's what's pleasing to Srila Prabhupada, and that's what's pleasing to one's spiritual master if one loves Krishna. All right, so we'll just finish this purport here. As will be seen, Saubhari Muni became very dissatisfied with material opulence, and thus left everything and re-entered the forest in the vanaprastha order and achieved final success. It's quite amazing, actually. We'll hear about it at the end of the chapter, what he achieved. Those who are not Atma Tattvavit, who do not know the spiritual value of life, can be satisfied with external material opulences to some degree. It's an ignorant type of satisfaction. But those who are Atma Tattvavit are not inspired by material opulence. This is the instruction we can derive from the life and activities of Saubhari Muni. So yes, we could be satisfied by serving Krishna, loving Krishna, and therefore, understanding this to whatever degree, we go out and we try to give Krishna consciousness to others in different ways. So many ways to do that. Of course, devotees throughout the world right now are making a special effort to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, which is most important activity, give people transcendental knowledge. And when people come, like tonight we'll have some people coming, hopefully, by Krishna's mercy, try to encourage them to take further steps in Krishna consciousness, whether they're baby steps or big steps. Just like we had our Rath Yatra here in Ocean Beach, and at the end of the Rath Yatra, I look up and there's this woman in her apartment. She's waving to us, looking down, and I look up and she has the head of a deer on her living room, in her living room. And I'm just thinking, wow, it's terrible actually. And I was thinking to myself, yes, devotees have to go out and try to give Krishna consciousness to others, to people like up in her apartment like that. So people are out there. And they're waiting for some mercy of Krishna, waiting for some solutions to their problems. So, to go out and try to give Krishna consciousness to others somehow or other is so pleasing to Krishna. So does anybody have any question? Yes. Srila Prabhu?
I think it's very interesting that here was Saubhari Muni in Vrindavan, in the Yamuna, and yet he still performed this aparad. Yeah. And when you think about it, that's one of the dangers of living amongst the devotees. I mean, if you're living at in some remote place alone, and you're not going to be able to perform Vaishnava aparad. Yeah. But here he was, surrounded by Vaishnava, and big Vaishnava, I think we're going to read it, Garuda, came to eat some fish, and he had made an alliance with the fish, and he chased him away, and that was a big offense, and that was the beginning of his fall down. So it's important to remember that but it's obviously a great opportunity to be able to associate with devotees, live in the temple, and be within the environment of the temple all the time. It's also danger there, because that's where you'll find all the devotees, and if you allow yourself to commit aparad, then you'll find yourself unable to stay. I've seen this so many times, that devotees they feel uncomfortable amongst the other devotees if they commit a serious aparad. So that's the main, and you won't have the advantage of Saubhari, having so many mystic powers that we could just turn it around.
Therefore, mind and sense and control is so important in relation to dealing with devotees, because Vaishnava aparad generally comes from failing in the mind and sense control department. So mind and sense control, living in the mode of goodness, all of this helps protect us from this severe problem. And as it said, spiritual life is like a razor's edge. It says in the Vedas, actually. I read it. Because I always wondered where that came from, but there's some shloka where it mentions it. It's like a razor's edge, which means it can cut very nicely or cause damage. So, similarly, associated with devotees is like that, like a razor's edge. So, and everything in our spiritual life actually is like that. Any other question? Yes. Prabhu?
You mentioned in the class that sometimes you feel too comfortable, and you have your own schedule, you do what you like, and you have nice relationships, people respect you, and you can feel comfortable in this way. But also in regards to preaching, you can also feel like that. You can also adjust your schedule in such a way that you also feel comfortable and do not push yourself or do not progress forward. So is there any way that, what could be the correcting course for devotees in such consciousness and stagnation?
Anyone have any ideas? Huh? Double it. That's what they do in Budapest. What our friend Ananda Chaitanya was telling me. Shivaram Swami is quite a devotee in so many different ways. But one of the things is he just told the devotees, whatever donations come to the temple, we're sending them to the farm. All the donations, whatever comes, 100% is going to the farm, which is 2 hours south. And how will the temple go on? Book distribution. So that means there has to have books going out or the place just closes down. Of course, it was like that in the early days in Srila Prabhupada's time, but I don't know of any other temple that has such a rule, that literally no donations. So all the Indians giving, for example, they tend to give, all of that goes to the farm. And specifically, they make it a point to ask Indians for 0 donations. Like, they don't ask them for 0 donation. That's quite revolutionary, too. I mean, no offense towards Indians, obviously, but because what we see sometimes in the world is that locals are neglected completely. So what they were telling me, that at one particular point, a lot of non-locals, Indians, they started coming to the temple, and they made a whole separate program for them, just so the local people could come. So it's quite interesting. In other words, they didn't just surrender to, okay, the easiest, we could fill the place up and kind of forget about the locals. So one can, if one is under such good leadership who inspires challenging opportunities, then that's very nice. Because as they say, the fish rots from the head. So in other words, leadership, whatever good or bad, it affects everybody else. So good leadership is an important factor in this equation. But also, ultimately, spiritual life is one's own endeavor. So one has to challenge oneself. After a particular period, you may be challenged as a bhakta or bhaktin when you're new. Devotees may challenge you in certain ways, if you're lucky. But over time, you become a little older and people don't challenge you. So you have to challenge yourself. You can take sannyas if you want. That's a challenge. Anyways, any other question, comment? All right. Vanessa, do you have anything to say? Thank you for coming to Rath Yatra, by the way, and bringing your wonderful son.
Well, thank you. It was really blissful seeing everyone so advanced. So wonderful class. I'll probably be re-listening to it to pick up anything I missed. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Jai. Okay, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam.
I have a question.
Oh, okay,
Here.
Matthias.
I don't know, I just thought that also Saubhari Muni, he wasn't engaged in devotional service. So also Prabhupada emphasized a lot that if you're not engaged in devotional service, you're just relying on your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And also whatever progress you made in devotional service, even though if you fall down, is still there. And also, as when you get to a advanced stage, you're relying on not in your senses, but in the love of Krishna. So
Yeah. I think that if one practices, I'm convinced that if one practices Krishna consciousness properly, on the guidance of spiritual authorities, then that won't be a problem really, becoming comfortable, too comfortable. It's not a problem. Because one will be inspired to challenge themselves and continue in their Krishna consciousness progressively, based on their advancement of Krishna consciousness, based on the love of Krishna that they're feeling. So I don't think it'll be a problem. Yeah. So, all right. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.